like to say Yama, Yamane Gomeroi, Walla Bargan Yang, Winungal, Lambo Murray, Murra, Ngale Da, Dilia Yanbuli, Karana Marius Kaingal Gomeroi, Winalanginda, Nangalava. We pay respects to our elders, both past and present, who have cared and still care for the country that we're on now. A country that always was and always will be Gomeroi. I'd also like to acknowledge National Women's Day and also pay respect to the that play a massive role in the lives of our families, especially our matriarchs and Aboriginal families. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Could I ask councillors to be standing and ask James Adele to come to the front to do the opening prayer? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Russell. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge your hand over Tamworth and over the officers and staff of Tamworth Regional Council. We thank you for the resilience and health of the Tamworth community in these times of uncertainty and future growth. We ask for great wisdom and insight for the councillors as they govern for the common good and prosperity of all people in Tamworth and our region. We commend the staff of council for their integrity, dedication and professionalism as they serve our city and our people. Continue to pour out your favour upon all who call Tamworth home. In the name of our Lord Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, councillors, I'll move on to item 1, which is apology absence. We have no one away, so we'll move on to item 2, community consultation. I don't believe there's anybody here for community consultation. They're not being. I'll move on to item 3, previous meeting submitted for approval. Could I have someone move those minutes? Coates, would you like to comment on that? No, thank you. Any other comments? No, no other comments. I'll put that recommendation that they be accepted. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Moving on to item 4, disclosures of interest. Is there any disclosures of interest this evening? No disclosures of interest. Very good. Moving on to item 5, and this is perhaps this is the first one for me. I have a Merrill Minute, and I move my Merrill Minute, and I wish to just make a few little comments before I take it to the floor. I think we should be very proud of our General Manager. Been accepted or been asked to go on this delegation. Understanding there's 113 councils that are a part of statewide mutual, the insurance group, and only 2 GMs have been asked to attend and participate in the discussions, which will have some impact on what our insurances might look like into the future. I should say there are 3 GMs. One of those is a organisation, and the other invitee. So congratulations, Paul, and I'm very proud for you to be going, and I'm proud of our council for being able to support this. So at this stage, if the minute's passed, so I ask for comment from the floor.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to congratulate you, GM, on such a prestigious thing to be able to be asked to do this, and I know that it has a minimal financial impact on Tamworth Regional Council as well, and hopefully your personal development will be a great outcome of your trip. So well done.
Thank you. Any further comments, Councillor Betts?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I follow the sentiments of Councillor Burke. It's a testimony to the calibre of our General Manager. Yeah, you may smile, but it's true and genuine. It's a testament to your calibre, and to represent local government across the board is a real achievement for yourself, but it's also an achievement for council to have a representative there. So, yeah, congratulations.
Thanks, Councillor Betts. Councillor Sutherland.
Again, just want to share thoughts with Councillor Burke and Councillor Betts with congratulations for the GM, and especially with the focused presentations that are going to happen, you know, around COVID, you know, bushfire response, and some of the issues that are really impacted our communities, to being able to bring that to the table to make sure things are moving forward in the future. Thanks.
Further comment? There being no further comment, I'll put the Merrill Minute. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillors, we'll move on to open reports. We'll move on to notice of motions. There's no notice of motions. So we'll move on to item 7, environmental planning and open reports. And we'll move to item 7.1. Can I have a mover? Councillor Tickle. Seconder, Councillor Sunderland. Councillor Tickle, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. High quality design in the CBD is necessary to achieve a strong and vibrant community and a strong and vibrant CBD. We've just seen what Peel Street, the works that were done back in the 90s and early 2000s with our trees and what they've done for the CBD and bringing people in. This next stage is to encourage shop top housing and other measures to ensure appropriate developments within that CBD area. As the report details, there's been consultation. All businesses have been notified. It's been on public and it's only one dissent, and unfortunately we haven't been able to meet with that person to discuss it. Didn't want to take it any further, so we can only assume from the lack of any responses, and in fact we've had some that were all very positive, that the community wants to move ahead with this and in line with Blueprint 100. And again, extensive consultation took part there across the whole community, business, developers, community groups, very extensive consultation over a number of months too. Part of the design excellence that I just mentioned is to facilitate shop housing. And what an excellent idea. There are already some amazing of shop top living in our CBD where people have renovated and made amazing living spaces on top of shops. So we're going back to what used to happen generations ago. I'd also like to perhaps, if we can, see that extended to our smaller communities such as Barraba and Bing. There are so many empty buildings in their CBDs. We have a housing shortage, not only in our region, seems to be all over New Zealand. I'd really like to see those spaces activated. Again, in those communities, there is some CBD, but of course zoning has to permit it. So something else for us to be thinking about. So that motion, I think it's a very positive step.
Thank you, Councillor Tickle. Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? There being no one to speak against, I'll ask someone. Councillor Coates.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree wholeheartedly with Helen with the consultation that's been done. It's been very thorough. I think it's a really good way to start something like this. The other thing I wanted to mention is that often we find that as communities expand, our CBDs actually go into a demise. They actually slowly die. And the approach of activating them early is, I think it's really good to try and build an alternative CBD that's going to be vibrant and attract people into the area, not just to live, but as tourists, and having the commercial opportunity all cohabitating together. And I think that by providing facilities, it's actually going to mean that it's not just the CBD, but the outlying suburbs and the region itself is going to improve the living of current and future residents.
Thank you, Councillor Coates. Councillor Betts.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillor Coates and Councillor Tickle certainly very much in favour of the report. Having a little bit of experience on local government over the years and being involved in the City Centre Working Group and the strategic plan that this council's had for many, many years, it's absolutely vital that a CBD is the hub of any regional community or any community. You've only got to have a look at Newcastle some time back when they put the Charlestown and all the Katara little satellite suburb villages. What that did was it killed CBD of Hunter Street in Newcastle. We never did that. We kept the vibrancy here in the Peel Street, which is the CBD, and it's just absolutely critical. This shop top housing, it's the next generation of where we need to go. It really is, because it's as we get the university, we had a transport strategy this afternoon, and the strategy said that we need to look at inner city transport and reduce the number of actual vehicle movements over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to have inner city living, so people don't have to transport themselves to work. It's just vital, so I totally support the thanks, Mr.
Thanks, Councillor Betts. Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Again, looking over the consultation, how thorough it was, and making sure that it aligns with the future direction of the town and the CBD. Just a question in regards, or maybe an update, if possible, on how the conversations were going with the car yards and the relocation of car yards from the CBD, and just an update maybe on that as in regards to the consultation. Jen, would you like to?
Whilst we have invited all the CBD owners to come and talk to us, certainly not all of the car yards have as yet come in and had a chat with us. We've had some in, and there's a range of responses. The majority have said because of their expenditure on the sites, in the short term, they don't have plans to move. And I think we would all accept why, because there's a lot of expenditure and a lot of investment they put into it. But for the ones we've talked to, I have to say there hasn't been a great opposition. It's like in the back of their minds they know that at some stage it's probably going to make sense for them to that now, and we accept that. And if I can just add, that's why this clause is so useful, because it's not affecting any use that's there at the moment. It's about future development. So for those users that want to stay there, that's fine.
Thank you very much.
Further comment or further questions? Councillor Southwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make just a quick comment around this design excellence clause. I think it's fantastic. I think that what has already been said by my fellow councillors is 100% true. I look forward to seeing the high quality urban design outcomes. I think this is something that a lot of people want to see, this high quality design, amenity of our region. I look forward to coming out and about and feeling like the atmosphere of the region when you've got, you know, that really nice to see the bustling restaurants, people, you know, having upstairs to their apartments and whatnot. So I look forward to seeing it. I'd like to commend the staff for the work that they've done on that one. Thank you.
Further comment? Before I, sorry, Helen.
Now,
I just want to make a comment before you close the debate. I think an exciting part of that is down to where the proposed university is going, and I think that's an exciting time for our community and exciting time for those young ones coming along into the future. Councillor Tickle, if you want to close the debate.
it is indeed exciting times, and I do like to thank the staff for all the work they've put in, and the community for their feedback. Like, we can't do this without the community, and that's why the community with having their feedback and input into this. And we've had amazing input with Blueprint and now with this strategy. Whilst we have facilitating shop top housing, as a council we also need to keep encouraging and facilitating where we can CBD living of other types as well. I mean, units, villas, there is such a need, particularly for young professionals and also perhaps people that are semi-retired or retired and are wanting to downsize. And that brings a lot of more benefits to the CBD as well. So I don't, whilst we want to facilitate shop top housing, we want the community to know that we're also keen on having more villas and CV and units in the CBD to encourage the choice in CBD living. And supporting the upgrade, extension of the streetscape, that's going to be fantastic. We're going to see more greening and cooling of Tamworth and improving our amenity. We have comments for the last 30 years, 25 years. We have received comments so positive about the trees in the, and this is exciting to think that that will be extended further. So thanks again for all the work that's been done on this.
Thanks, councillor Tickle. The debate's now closed and I will now put the recommendation. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. We'll move now into item 8, which is infrastructure and services. Would somebody like to move item 8.1? Councillor Southwell. Oh, sorry, and second to councillor Betts. Discussion. Councillor Southwell, would you like? Anyone wish to speak against the recommendation? Further discussion?
Councillor Mayor Webb, sorry, I just think it's exciting that Bendimeer is finally going to get its opportunity to have the muster again. I think it's a triennial event, and after the destruction or the removal of the Josh Hazelwood sign, I think it's great to have some folks for the right reasons back on Bendimeer, and I hope that the Tamworth community at large gets behind it and makes sure that it's a wonderful event, because it's a pretty tough job up there in Bendimeer, and it's good to see that they've got this sort of community activity behind them. I don't have a grey Fergie tractor, but it's next on the list, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, councillor Berg. Further comment? Further comment? Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just want to make comment to the removal of the no parking signs at the Oztag fields. I know that especially during the winter and when Oztag's on, parking at that precinct is hard to come by, and having no parking signs up there really it doesn't make sense when there's so many people parking and they just don't take notice of the sign. So instead of forcing our hand in that space, making sure people have the ability to park, I think is a great idea for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, councillor Sutherland. Further debate? I'd just like to make one comment, councillors, and I'd just take my hat off to those volunteers up at Bendimeer that actually pull that grey Fergie together. That's fantastic and good work on their behalf. Councillors, I'll put that recommendation. Those in favour say aye. Those against? Carried. Councillors, we'll move on to item 8.2, Eastern North Drainage Study. Can I have a councillor move that? Councillor Rodder. Seconded, councillor Tickle. Councillor Rodder, would you like to speak to that?
Mr Mayor.
Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? Any further discussion on that recommendation? Councillor Coates.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment that this has been a very extensive study. Personally, at a glance, but there's been an awful lot of work put into it, so I think that the department have done very well to pull that amount of work together.
Further comment? No further comment? Councillors, I'll put that recommendation. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillors, we'll now move on to item 9, which is governance, strategy and finance. And item 9.1, could I have somebody move item 9.1? Councillor Betts, seconded. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Betts, would you like to speak to that? Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? Further discussion on that recommendation or questions?
9.1.
Councillor Southwell.
Just checking, this is 9.1, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I would just like to commend the staff for putting that together. It was great to see that report in terms of some of our progress to date between July and December. And also just commend highlight some of the challenges that we have had to deal with as a council, including COVID, and I think that we're kind of coming out of that now, which is great. It was good to see the progress report and read about what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Southwell. Any further comment? No further comment, I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Council, we move on to item 9.2, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. Could I have someone move? Councillor Cates, you wish to move that? Seconded, Councillor Mears. Councillor Cates, would you like to speak to that?
Mr Mayor, just to make a comment that having sat on that committee for the first time this year, I found the members of the committee to be very professional and are not accepting of things as the way they are. So there's been a lot of work done in looking at the improvement and just to ensure that internal audit plan actually is done to a good quality.
Thank you, Councillor Cates. And if I understand. Anybody wish to speak against that recommendation? Anyone wish to speak to it? Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, I'll put the recommendation in 9.2. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Councillors, we move on to community services, and we'll move on to item 10.1, Central Northern Regional Library. Could I please move that recommendation? Councillor Southwell, seconded Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Southwell, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of this report, I would just like to say that it's just so good that we have this Central Northern Regional Library resource. Like, it's just great to see that as a council we're collaborating with some of our neighbours. I believe there is 6 other councils, Guadalupe, Plains and Narrabri, Uralla and Walcott, and it's just great. Some of the outcomes there that we're receiving part of this actual project is obviously outlined within the report, but things like cost sharing, access to wider resources within the ability to provide additional shared expertise and shared staffing across the area, shared policies and procedures is just fantastic. So I know a lot of those smaller councils would really benefit from having that association with Tamworth, a large kind of council, but we also receive some benefits there in sharing those resources around. So it's a fantastic project and I think it's just great for our region. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Southwell. Anybody wish to speak against the recommendation? Anybody else want to make comment on the recommendation? Councillor Cates?
I just want to make a comment on the particular policy. And I really think, I appreciate and applaud that policy, which in essence, it allows our documentary heritage to be collected, organised, preserved and made accessible to current and future generations. The fact that it lays the foundation of future understanding and interpretations of the region's social, cultural, political and intellectual history and identity supports the preservation of past achievements and future aspirations. I found it to be a really important report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cates. Councillor Sutherland?
Just took the words right out of my mouth.
You can say it again.
Pardon?
You can say it again.
I'd like to throw my complete support behind the library's draft local studies policy. Again, reiterating the comments around the importance. I'd also like to commend the staff in completing training in supporting our LGBTQ community and gender diverse community. I think that training is so important to be able to do, and them to do so, I think is great. And the fact that we're able to support 8 full-time positions in our libraries and throughout the library systems based here in Tamworth, I think is a huge statement in our support, not only for people to access information and research, but I think it's a great step moving forward in that direction. Completely support it.
Thanks, Councillor Sutherland. Any other councillors wish to make comment? That being the case, I'll put the recommendation on 10.1. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Councillors, we move now to Inclusive Cultural Advisory Committee. Could I have a councillor please move? Councillor Rodder. Second, Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Rodder, would you like to speak to that? Anybody wish to speak against the recommendation? Any discussion on the recommendation on the item? Any further discussion? Councillor Sutherland.
All over it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in regards to the report that was going to be done around the homelessness protocols, I think that's a great report, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcomes of that.
Thank you. Councillor Coates.
And Mr. Mayor, in addition to Councillor Solomon, I would also like to make a comment on that homelessness report. I participated in the Week for Homeless this year to just see what was actually going on in our community. So I'll be interested to see what actually comes back with the recommendation following the results we've had around our community.
Thanks, Councillor Coates. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Councillors, I'll put the recommendation in on that item. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Councillors, we move on to item 10.3, Disability Access Working Group. Councillor Tickle, seconded. Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Tickle, would you like to speak to that recommendation?
Yes, there's a number of points that are outlined in the report, so I won't go over that. But I did want to acknowledge that our committee, this was the first cross-representation of the community and a wonderful representation which and have already made input into our disability inclusion access plan. So I did want to acknowledge them and what they've already contributed to us to council.
Thanks, Councillor Tickle. Councillor Southwell.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment just to.
Seconded it or did
I didn't second it.
Nice.
No, I'll just call, is there anyone wishes to speak against the recommendation first? Then not seeing anyone wishing to speak. Councillor Southwell.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to also congratulate the new members of the committee and the working group. There's obviously a lot of benefits to the Disability Access Working Group, including young women who have prams as well. So obviously people with disabilities and mobility issues, but also highlight that, and I'm sure that will be something that will be discussed within the committee. But I'd just like to welcome and thank the new members that have been appointed to the working group. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Southwell. Any further discussion on that item? There being no further discussion, I'll put the recommendation in 10.3. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Councillors, we're getting through the business paper very quickly tonight. Councillors, we now move on to item 11. And before I call for a motion to move into closed council, I'll ask, is nobody Mr. General Manager, do we have anybody that's made representations to have any closed matters heard in open? I'll call for a motion to move into closed committee. Councillor Sutherland, seconded Councillor Mears. Those in favour? Councillor, Mr. Rodder, Councillor Rodder, could you?
The motion.
How are we sitting, guys? I'll ask the General Manager to report on closed business.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is the report from the closed session of the ordinary council meeting held on the 8th of March 2022. In closed council, you considered 3 items of business, and for each of those items you adopted the recommendations as per your business paper.
Thank you. We don't have a motion for that, do we?
You should have a motion to accept.
Could I have a motion to accept? Councillor Burke, second to Councillor Mears. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Councillors, that